Hello people, welcome to the next episode of Late Friday Night's Banter Blitz. I'm International Master Andrey Ostrovskiy, and we're going to play some, I hope, nice games. Simultaneously learning something new about chess, because my main goal is not to win each and every game, but to explain what is going on the board. Alright, so let me know as usual what is going on to the stream, the quality of the sound of the picture, and we are going to start because, well, actually tomorrow, early in the morning, I'm leaving for Solingen to participate in Teams Blitz Championship. So today is probably not a good day for making a longer session, so it will be a bit shorter if compared to usual stuff. All right, so let's go and search for guys I've never ever played before among challengers. If we, of course, have somebody, would be nice. Okay, so I can notice immediately the Sundance Kate. So we have never ever played before. Premium user, why not accept? So let's do it. Accepting the challenge and plan is white. All right, here we go. E4. C5, Sicilian, right from the start. So everybody says that stream is okay, video is okay, sound is perfect. All right. E6, D4, CD4, knight D4, A6. Okay, bishop D3, developing the bishop. Castling. Knight F6. All right, let's try to play C4. Grabbing the space, trying to play sort of Marozzi. Okay, knight B3. Bishop to E7. All right. Continue developing the pieces. Now let's go a bit aggressive. Not sure that H6 was needed, to be honest. Don't quite understand that move. Alright, this gives me an opportunity to play E5 even. Again, not sure that black should have played like that. So something like D7, D6 was very natural. Now the knight is forced to super ugly position. And now I can continue with two interesting moves. So the one is just Queen G4 attacking G7. Either forcing G6 or even Bishop F8, which is quite bad for black. Another idea is just to play knight E4, or maybe even C5, and then knight E4 and knight E6. I don't know actually which one is better, so let's start with Queen G4. Anyway, looks like a good move. Just attacking G7 for now. If G6, I may consider even taking on G6, I think. So should I try it or not? Why not? Let's do it. So F takes G6, Queen G6. If king goes to D8, I have Queen G7 at least. Just taking that rook. If king goes to F8, I'll probably have just F5, continuing with the attack against the king. Already looks very dubious for black, I would say. I'm not sure what black is going to do, actually. So not taking on G6 looks just lost. But taking on G6 looks equally lost, so I don't know. Probably after Queen G4 there was the last chance just to try something like, I don't know, Bishop F8 or King F8. Okay, now I can simply go away with the bishop, I think. It would be just winning. Would be just winning. Taking on D5 is also possible, by the way. CD5, E5, knight E5, bishop G4, knight C7. Lost for black. Bishop takes f7 is another opportunity, followed by queen h5, let's say. Also lost for black. I don't really know what to do here. So too many options. I'll try just going away with the bishop. Why should I sacrifice anything if I can actually play position with the material advantage for white? Chess Energetic asks 2 hour stream, not really, so 1 hour and a half at max this time, because of my trip tomorrow. And next week, most likely 2 hours plus. Kramnik student says, Andrey, long time since you didn't stream on your own. That's true. Well, simply other priorities right now, unfortunately. Or maybe fortunately in the long run, I don't know. Okay, d4 knight is hanging, but I can play queen g7. I can play queen g7, so I will do this. Just ignoring this knight on c3, doesn't matter. I attack f7 now and the rook on h8. Time to resign, I think. Question from Twyhosex. Who will be with you in Zollingen? Well, my team. The part of my team. So Lawrence Trent, Mikhail Kopolov, and Falco Meyer, if I'm not mistaken, yeah. So bishop takes f7, followed by queen h8 should be just good enough. Extra rook, knight on g8, drops, and it's over. So everything started, I think, with the h6 move. So first of all, h6 is not needed, but h6 is more or less fine. So after f4, just play d6, prevent an e5. Otherwise, I just play e5 myself, will grab a lot of space, and so forth. So d6 leads to more or less normal position. I wanted to try some like queen e1 or queen e2, preparing e5. Maybe queen e2 is slightly better, because if I manage to play e5, then after d5, fe5, knight goes away, I have queen h5 follow up. Also, I guess it's important to have g4 square under control, because as you noticed, once the queen gets to g4, it's quite unpleasant for black. But okay, black is not forced to give me a chance to play e5, so it's possible to continue just in the spirit of this setup. Knight to d7, controlling e5, then b6, bishop b7, and so forth. Okay, after this move, I think white is already much better, because black is forced to do something really ugly like bishop f8 or king f8. In both cases, white has very simple play, like, for example, I can continue with the knight d5, even ed5, cd5, sacrificing the knight this way, or even without sacrifices, just knight e4, followed by, say, c5 and knight e6, or maybe sometimes just knight e6 without preparation. Also looks nice because this g7 is vulnerable, so it's just very bad position. Anyway, thanks for the game. Let us continue. So, do we have another guy I've never ever played before? So, let's see. Wheelbarrow. From Panama, it says. Okay, accept. Accept. e4, e5. Knight f3, knight c6. And bishop b4 check against Scotch. Not the most popular continuation, but, well, it is even played at the very top. Magnus Carlsen played like this. Some other top grandmasters tried this bishop b4, mainly during rapid or blitz chess, but still, I think it's not that bad in general. So I want to provoke c3, so that grabbing this square from the knight b1 and retreat to e7. Knight to c3, alright, alright. So what does it mean? If I play knight f6, it's just a transposition to Scotch for knights, so knight c6, b6, famous theoretic position. But can I play something else? For example, what if I just play queen to e7 here, attacking e4? Is it better than knight f6? I'm not sure. Let's try. Let's try that. e4 is under pressure now. Probably queen h4 also deserved attention. The thing is, bishop d3 isn't possible because of knight d4. Queen e2 isn't possible because of the same thing. If knight takes c6, I can take on e4 first, and I will have a great position. Alright, f3, now I can consider even playing d7, d5. Looks very strong, but then bishop goes to b5. It's not that clear. Queen to c5 is also an interesting possibility, just attacking the knight and another one on c3. Does it make sense to try that or not? It's just queen to c5. Looks a bit strange, but probably absolutely playable. I believe that d5 is just a normal continuation, but I'm really tempted to try this Batzerish move. I don't know, attacking two knights simultaneously. If the knight retreats to e2, I'll be happy to see that. Oh, but then I can go to b5. That's probably why queen c5 isn't that cool. Alright, knight c6 is a mistake, I guess, because now I can take on c3 twice prior to taking the knight on c6, right? Right. Knight d4 to b5 was a strong response, followed by a3, let's say, forcing my bishop to capture on c3 and then recapturing with that knight from b5, having pair of bishops and very good position. Knight b5 was a tempo move, by the way, attacking c7. I overlooked that. No, I'm not going to say that white's position is lost. White will have a compensation for missing material because of pair of bishops. But I'm not sure that this compensation will be complete. Yeah, and now queen c6. That is what was planned. Extra pawn for black now. There is no queen g4 move, which is good. Typical thing when there is no bishop on f8 and knight is still on g8 may cause some problems. In this particular case, I think I'm fine. So knight e7. Not to f6 because of e4, e5. Potentially not very pleasant. Just knight e7, castles. Kramnik to the knight b5, then bishop a5 was possible. Yeah, it was, but this means I achieved nothing with this maneuver, queen c5. So after bishop a5, there was a chance for white to try some like queen e2 or queen d3, preparing bishop e3. So my queen on c5 is just misplaced. That was the problem. All right, now what to do? I think d6 is good. Controlling e5, preparing development of the bishop to e6, and maybe intending to play f7, f5. Queen to c2. Now, should I play f5 prior to f4 or not? Or wait for white's f4 and then f5? It's a good question, because if I play f5 right now, there is rook e1, just keeping the tension, and I'm not sure that it will be that simple for me to complete the development. Bishop e6 is another option, and if f4 then f5. And if rook e1 then something like queen d7 should be playable. Not sure. Not sure in all this. Maybe I should include queen c5 check, but I'm not sure that this also gives me anything. Except for putting the knight on c6 maybe, but do I really want my knight on c6? Again, no idea. But let's try this way. So on g6, knight could have been vulnerable to f4, followed by f5 at some point. And in general, the knight when g6 is placed not that great. So it's better to have it somewhere in the center. So knight c6. Potentially get into d4 square. Okay. Now. I don't know why, but it feels like it's better to have the queen on h5 if I want to play f5. Oh, h3, really? This is very bad. I can just take it. I'll just capture the entire king side now. If g takes h3 is played. No, I didn't play queen h5 intending to take on h3 because I didn't expect h3 to start with. So, queen h5, the main idea behind it was to have the queen at the safe place somewhere prior to playing f5, because on c5 it is rather vulnerable to different attacks, bishop e3 or maybe rook b1 followed by rook b5, something like this. On h5 it is, of course, covered by other pieces. Alright, this doesn't help because of bishop g4 check. It's even worse than taking the bishop. Yeah, it's completely lost now. Completely, I mean. So king g1. Okay, let's just take the pawn with the threat of queen h1 or queen g4. So how many pawns? Like 3 now? No, I just captured 3 and I was like 1 pawn up already. Bishop e2 just giving me another piece. I'll capture it with pleasure. So, black just blundered everything here. Okay. Let's save the queen because it is not so long till the checkmate. Better to have it on the board. Taking some more. Now let's burn rooks to the action. Okay. This sort of exchange, of course, is absolutely acceptable. When simultaneously with the exchange of queens, you just win the rook. Alright, so there was a great moment after queen c5 to solve all the problems with one shot, just knight to b5. Attacking c7 and protecting the knight on c3 and going away from d4, which was vulnerable. So ceramic students suggested bishop a5 on chat, but as you can see here, white can probably just play this move. I guess queen d3 even better than queen e2 because this also protects the knight on c3. And if I play a6 here, then bishop e3 first. Don't know. I like white's position here, to be honest. So, not sure that queen c5 was good in general. So probably something like d7, d5 was much more in the spirit of this position. And if, for example, bishop goes to b5, because I don't see anything better than that, then maybe queen to c5. Attacking the knight and the bishop on b5 potentially. So, I mean, if knight jumps to f5, it is possible just to grab the bishop because knight on c3 is pinned. So probably something like capture on c6 should be considered. I don't know which way, with the knight or with the bishop. Maybe with the knight, bc3 and then bishop d3. But then d4 is possible, or bishop takes c3. No, probably with the bishop, but then black is fine. I guess bishop b5 is not even that great. But what to do instead, I don't know, maybe taking here, and then something like bishop d2 or bishop d3, but don't know. Either way, I guess black is doing fine here, so knight to c3 is not a good idea. c3 is a move here with the pawn. Winning the tempo and then developing the bishop to d3. So that is how the majority of players react to this bishop b4. All right. Okay, next game, the last one against the guy I've never played before. Here is Environment. Also premium member, we've never played before, so I'll accept. And after that, I'll accept challenges one by one. And e5 this time. All right. Ruy Lopez. Ruy Lopez. And b5 prior to playing knight to f6. All right. Let's see. b5 and bishop c5 immediately. This should be also okay for black, I think. So what if I play d4 here? If e4, then something like knight g5, potentially annoying. d4, knight d4, just something like, I don't know. Let's just play c3 instead. Preparing d4. Maybe knight a5 also deserved attention. I don't know. Actually, never seen this before. This b5 immediately followed by bishop c5. And when you play blitz, it's not a good idea just to, well, calculate a lot and spend a lot of time on that. So let's just play natural moves. Like d4 now. Should be natural. Okay, I lost my chat. Just a second. Need to reactivate. Okay. So if takes d4 now, I think I could try e5 prior to taking on d4, because if I take on d4, then bishop b4 check is possible, just like in Italian. But there is an inclusion of b5, bishop b3, which is not so clear. I mean, who benefits from it? But e5 first looks good. So if that goes away, I just take on d4. I have more space and so forth. The first question is where the knight goes to start with. To e4. Now if I take on d4, there's bishop b4 check, and if I play knight e2, there is an exchange. Maybe I should attack the knight the second time now, but there is potentially knight takes f2 threat. Is it really dangerous? I mean, if I play bishop d5, knight takes f2, king takes f2, d takes c3. King goes away somewhere, maybe even to g3. What is that? It looks like a position with the extra material, simply. Maybe I'm blundering something, but feels like bishop d5 is an option here for white. It's okay, knight f2, king f2, dc3, just king g3. So what? I control all important squares there with my minor pieces, preventing the activation of the queen. Also, I'm not forced to go to g3. I can just put my king on e2 right now. But g3 looks more natural, because after that, I can play h3, king h2 quickly. Not sure. Let's go there. Extra minor piece for now. Black has some pawns, of course. So black has some compensation. c3 is hanging, so black has to take on b2, I guess. Otherwise, there will be only 2 pawns, which is not enough to compensate a minor piece. And cb2 somehow deflects my bishop from this c1 h6 diagonal. I actually wanted to put the bishop on g5 at some point, but it's okay. On the other hand, bishop will protect the pawn on e5, which is also good. At some point, I may consider just taking on c6, simplifying the things, and taking the queen. So that playing the endgame. If the things go wild, I mean, but I don't even see how black is going to attack my king. My king feels absolutely all right on g3 right now. So something like knight d2, knight e4 can be considered as the main option. To be completely honest, I don't want to take on c6, giving up my great bishop. It's very nice attacking piece. This pawn on e5 is also very good. Just controlling a lot of important squares. Okay. Black is thinking. True, it's not that simple to find a good continuation here because there is no compensation. There is no real compensation. All right. What is the best move after e5? Is this e4, e5 the best continuation for white? I'm not sure. So this classic variation of Ruy Lopez goes like knight f6 castles and then bishop c5 immediately, if I'm not mistaken. Or bishop c5 just right now, after bishop b5, or after a6, bishop a4, just bishop c5, without playing b5. I have no idea. Okay, what happened? d6 was played, and immediate resignation because of bishop takes c6. Yeah, this position is already bad. I mean, even this position looks terrible for black, because if this knight f2 doesn't work, then, and it doesn't work, then it's not clear how to protect this guy, and I'm going to take on d4 next move. So I guess here is something like maybe queen e7, or I don't know. But queen e7 I can just take on d4, it doesn't solve the problem. Oh, then knight takes d4, knight takes d4, queen e5, but okay, knight e2. Again, I'm fine. So queen e7, maybe even castling, deserves attention. After knight e5, queen e5, I have rook e1. Alright, so maybe that was critical line, I don't know. Castles, knight takes e5, knight takes e5, queen e5, rook e1, knight e4, only move. Now what? Now I can take on d4 first, and so forth. Huh? Don't know. Oh, queen f3. Just attacking the knight and pawn on f7. No, it's just lost, you know. Johan Wilhelm Möbus says knight e4, f5, but it's terrible. I mean, knight e4, bishop d5, and if f5, come on. I can now just take on d4 simply, with the great positional advantage. I mean, there is no castling whatsoever. There is no d6 because knight is constantly hanging there on c6. White has a lot of space. So what are we talking about? It's just completely lost. Okay. Anyway, that is an interesting game. Let's come back to normal order of challenges. And so bishop b4. Okay, bishop b4 here, just knight d2. I'm not against now. So even if you take everything here, I mean, white is still much better. Come on. It's just positionally lost for black. Such a position with so many weaknesses. Let us continue. Exactly against the guy who suggested this. Johann Wilhelm Möbius, accept. Plain as black. If I'm not mistaken, Johann managed to beat me last week when I was playing as white. Or maybe not, I don't remember, but it definitely happened not so long ago. Alright. Playing Smyslov system with the h6. Taking on d4. Taking on e4 was a mistake because of bishop d5. That's why bishop d7. But now e4 is protected, so we opt for another plan. Knight a5 followed by c5. Knight c4 is also another option. In this particular case, as far as I remember, it's a good idea to put the knight on b6 prior to pushing all the pawns there on the queen side. So a4. Alright, if my knight goes back to b6, there is, of course, a5. But then I can come back to c4. This is probably how it is played. So I force a5, then come back to c4, attacking a5. And if b4, c4, c4, my knight is there for a long time on c4. So I'm kind of winning that square for the knight. So too many moves with knight, but white is not doing anything. So why not? Now I can take on a4 and fix that pawn with the help of a5 so that a4 will be my target. Should I do that or not? Or just c4 or something else? You know, c4, a5, cb3, bishop b3, knight to a4 even deserves serious attention. Or c4, and if b4, I just take on a4. Let's try this way. And now knight c4 is possible as well as knight to a4. Knight to a4 is dubious a bit, but on the other hand, I'm just surrounding pawn a5. By the way, after bishop a4, ba4, I don't see how to protect a5 pawn. So maybe that was a mistake to play like that, I mean, for white. Because now black is doing well. Feels like that at least. Okay, I understand that my pawn will be doubled, so the fact that I win the pawn on a5 is not that probably dangerous for white, but in general the pawn structure is damaged. On the queen side, so now I have a pretty simple plan of just playing against this c3 pawn and so on. There's a bit of noise outside. Sorry, I'm just broadcasting with the open window because it is getting hotter and hotter in Germany, so have to adapt. So queen takes a5, c4, say queen to c7. So what? Extra pawn. Let's do it. Alright, just knight to h4, simply head into f5. Searching for counterplay this way. Maybe not a bad idea. So how to deal with this? I can come back to d8 with the queen now. And if knight f5, then just king h7 followed by g6 at some point. Let's try it. I think it's fine. At the same time, I'm going just to put the knight on c5 now, preventing the damage of the pawn structure. I think it makes sense to start with this. I don't see a direct threat for now, so let's play knight c5. Bishop c2. Now I wanted to put the king on h7 followed by g6, getting rid of this knight on f5. Does it make sense? Yeah, I think so. Let's do it. Of course, if white plays f4, I'm not going to capture. Opening diagonal b1 h7 for a bishop c2. Okay, g6 is stopped, but I have this typical Karpovian maneuver, knight to g8. Why Karpovian? Because it happened in the game with reverse colors between Karpov and Yusupov, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't remember who actually performed it, Karpov or Yusupov. But let's call it Karpovian maneuver. So g6 now is possible. Knight goes to e3, and I solved my problem, my main problem, I guess. On the other hand, f4 is coming. I have to deal with that. f4, if I have the bishop on g7, it's not necessarily that dangerous, but f7 should be also protected somehow. So let's put the bishop on g7. Knight goes to g4. I can even try bishop takes g4. Let's take it. I don't mind, I think. And what about just queen to h4 first? Attacking g4. Queen to d1. And now I wanted to try this. Bishop f6 and bishop g5. Maybe it was better to do this without the queen on h4, to be honest, because this queen may be trapped, or maybe not. Let's see. Aha, that's the thing. All right, let's go back. Let's say we made a mistake. Not a critical one, fortunately. Okay, so quickly regrouping because we have some problems with the time. Now it's a good moment to start on play. All right, so what to do with this? Let's play f6. A bit ugly move, but I want to overprotect this knight on g5. To prevent all sorts of these sacrifices, because now I'm fine, I think. All right, let's... That was unnecessary, absolutely. But there should be winning queen h2 or something. Is it winning or not? Not sure. Let's just do what? Overprotect everything. It's always a problem to play against Johann Wilhelm Möbius in a time trouble, but I should be alright anyway. Because this position should be just winning. Just have to find how. Okay, this is the exchange of queens. I think it's decisive. Queen. Here we go. Yeah, lost. So extra queen and no compensation here. Whew! Yeah, that was hard. That was hard. At some point, I've just started maneuvering not very convincingly, I think. So instead of doing what? Instead of doing queen h4, I guess. It was better for me to start with bishop f6. But the problem is that I wanted to prevent f4. That's why I played queen h4, actually controlling that knight on g3. But bishop f6 was probably playable right away, because f4 shouldn't be that dangerous. Let's say I just take, and if rook takes f4, obviously I have to protect a f7 prior to moving my bishop somewhere. But it's not a big deal, so I can play this king to g7, and if queen to f1. Then let's say something like, even rook a7, protecting f7, and then my bishop goes to e5 or g5. I actually win the control of dark squares, and it should be strategically winning position. We're not even talking about black's extra pawn that I won on a4, and you probably just forgot about that. So it's not about the extra pawn for now, because white is trying to organize some sort of attack on the king side, and black is trying to prevent it. So bishop f6 was better, I guess. After f4, ef4, and say bishop takes f4, I can probably even take on c3. But if I want to make sure that I don't miss anything tactical here, I can again start with this king g7. Yeah, I think black has no problems with protecting f7. Is the only serious weakness here. And after f4, as you can see, the pawn structure is just awful for white. All right, so queen h4 was not needed at all. Waste of time. So queen d1, then bishop f6. Here I also considered something like knight to h1 even. I'm preparing g3. So especially if I play bishop g5, white can play this g3, forcing my queen to h3. And my queen can be easily trapped here, I think, after simple, say, f3 move. g3 is protected by the knight. And here's this maneuver, rook f2, rook h2, and goodbye queen. So I was really nervous about that. Of course, after knight h1, I would never ever play this bishop to g5. I would have played something like bishop here. But it's a clear waste of time for black, because now I just played bishop f6. Now I go back to g7. I will be definitely forced to go back with the queen. And by the way, there are some ideas like g5 here. Also not entirely clear to me. Let's say if I take, then just g3 attacking the queen. Queen to h5. Yeah, maybe, but still this g4, queen h4, something like f3. It's absolutely possible to play this because knight controls g3 and then bishop e1 is coming. So I hate this position for black. So probably, yeah, this deserves some attention, but with the accurate play, most likely, black should be all right. So what did I play? I played actually bishop f6. Yeah, knight to h1 deserves serious attention here. So this bishop e1 is too slow. Now I just go back, come back to e7, and after that I felt completely comfortable about this position. So this is like, yeah, easy play for black. Of course, this regrouping was needed for sure to put the knight on g5 to prevent anything connected with this attack against h6. And then I just start playing on the queen side where I have extra pawn, a much better position. And this was already like the last chance. Very nice idea. Very good one. Very good idea. So queen g7, maybe not the strongest. Probably queen h7 was in fact better. Forced an exchange of queens. I mean, if bishop takes g5, there is probably a possibility just to take, to play g5. Like intending to grab this bishop at least. Attack it or something, but maybe it's not needed, all these complications, because white has f4 and so on. Don't know. So queen g7 is good enough. It was possible to take on g5 immediately. Here I could have just went back and then played g5. My queen completely covers the h file and I can focus on the queen side. But okay, there was just a time trouble, and no surprise, we both actually made mistakes. All right. Let's continue. Next one is Gambit from Spain. By the way, never played before, except. White pieces. E4. And Scandinavian. Scandi. Let's try to attack. Knight e5 is very natural in Scandinavian. And bishop to e6, wow. Something new to me. Something new to me. Which is not necessarily bad, actually. Looks quite okay for black. Followed by knight d7. How to develop the pieces correctly here? Bishop d2. Then just queen to b6. Bishop c4 is just too simple, I think. Maybe g3, bishop g2, but okay. I understand that white probably doesn't have anything after that. Because light squared bishops... I mean, the trade of light squared bishops is probably a good idea for black, not for white. Now I have this ugly one on c1. Yeah, white definitely doesn't have anything in this position. Grabbing the space to get at least some play there. Maybe a5 deserved attention, you know. At least of prevented me from this a5, a6 plan. Because now I think it makes sense to try this. Weaken in c6. Now knight to e5 or knight to a5, attack in c6. If I play knight e5, there is knight e5, d5, queen d1, rook d1, then knight to d5. I think black is more or less fine. So let's put the knight on a5, attack in c6. Although I'm not quite sure that this is really sound. Very strange game. Okay, here I wanted to put the queen on f3, attacking this c6 one more time, and also creating sort of knight takes b5. So I was excessive. Bishop d2, queen b6, knight a4, queen c7, knight c5. After knight a4, there's queen d4 possibility. All right, rook to c8. And here I wanted to do what? To put the bishop on f4 with the tempo. Alright, after exchange of dark squared bishops, of course, I get some chances because, you know, this d6 square is quite weak, and dark squares in general. So now I start, well, actually appreciating my position, I don't know. Probably queen b6 was a bit more accurate. Instead of playing bishop d6, I mean, keeping dark square bishops on the board. Now let's get there. The knight leaves c5 square. Now I have queen e5 idea. Let's put the queen on e5. So gradually I start attacking something. Right now I can just put the queen on c5 attacking a7. Should I do that or not? I don't think it's a real threat after that. Something like knight d7 is possible, or knight e4, and if I take on a7 my queen is trapped there. So let's just play slowly, I guess. Like, let's start with this move. Protecting d4. Okay, black decided to exchange queens. I'm not sure if it was a good idea in general. Now what to do? What is my plan? Let's play f4. Maybe knight c5 was the accurate move. Although giving the rook the chance to occupy d8 but blockading c6 pawn, which is a weakness. But on the other hand, if black plays c5, it makes position of the knight on d5 slightly more vulnerable. And I don't understand the idea behind knight e3, to be honest. There is nothing to do on e3. This creates another weakness. This time on e6. How to protect it? Knight c7, okay. Knight c5, protecting a6 and exerting additional pressure on e6. Now what? Let's play slowly. Controlling the squares. c4 is important to limit the activity of the knight. c7, all right? Right. Now it's a good idea to try the d file, because now there is no knight d5. Feels like my rook gets very active. And knight d6, okay. All right. Now collecting material. Super straightforward play. If ef5, I just take the knight on d5. Now the knight is hanging. Knight c3. Should I protect the pawn on e6? I think it's a good idea, because the pawn is very good. Almost a queen. Almost. Oh, this is check. Sorry, missed that. Simplification. Okay, I lost the pawn on e6, but position is absolutely winning, because I have the pawn on the side. All right, so wasn't an easy game for me, of course, especially after I got absolutely nothing in the opening. Here, I guess, after a4, the normal reaction is just a5, stopping me from that plan, a5, a6. But okay, bishop e7, a5. That was probably better just to start with castling, not defining the position of the knight b8, because maybe it will make sense even to put it on a6. Just intending to get to b4 at some point, at least supporting c6, c5, which is a typical thing in Caro-Kann type pawn structure, which also applies to Scandinavian. So, don't know. Knight d7 actually gives me some play at least. a6, b5. I would have played b6 slightly, more solid, not giving my knight at least this opportunity of getting to a5. And for example, if I play knight e5, then you just takes here, goes here, knight to d5. This should be safe position for black. Although slightly better for white after knight e4 followed by c4. Oh, I don't know. Maybe here b5. Yeah, maybe here b5. With that queens, it's a bit different. All right, but it's hard to tell what was the real improvement. So knight a5. Now I think it was slightly more accurate to put the queen on b6. Protecting c6, being not vulnerable to this bishop f4 move, and also intending just to grab the pawn on a6. So after queen c7, queen f3, rook c8 is okay. Knight d5 is also possible. Bishop f4, here 100%. I would have played queen to b6, not bishop d6. This definitely gives white a very simple dark squared plan. Like, I gradually improve my position. So as you can see, I'm just having better pawn structure, because I have no weaknesses while black already has some serious problems. So castles, c3. Again, probably I would have avoided exchanging queens in this situation. Again, queen b6 deserves attention. And now after f4, definitely knight e3 followed by f6 is not good. So instead of doing that, I would have played something like c5. Intending something active here connected with the b4, maybe c4 first. But it's time to improve the pawns there. Because the pawn remains on c6, well, you saw what happened. So I've just blockaded it at some point, and then it is a big weakness. So this position is just strategically lost for black, because all the pieces are very passive. Black has numerous weaknesses. So here I could have played rook d6, of course, just grabbing the pawn on c6. Knight is super passive. So whenever you play rook f5, I have this knight e4, and so on. So yeah, position is just terrible here. Even if you don't blunder the exchange and play something like king g6, I don't know, I still can play knight d6. I think I should be much better after that. So let's say king g6, just knight here. Don't know where to go. Rook f6 looks like the only move. I have f5 now, but then king h7, and it's not clear if I achieve anything. But something like this should give me some extra material. So takes here, takes here, takes c6. Again, it's written in this knight e5, and it's just terrible. I mean, super passive. Okay. Let us continue. Thanks for this game. It was interesting. Chess energetic. Wow. Accept. What's going on? Chess energetic. Are you going to respond or not? It's not on my end. All right, I bored. Sorry. Next one. Arturo, 35. Accept. E4. Guys, are you kidding me? Artur 35 is also not going to play, I think. All right. Next one. Lordy fine. Accept. Take 3. What's going on? Huh? C5. Nothing actually. So the guy simply ignored the opportunity to play. All right. Knight e4. Knight f6. Knight c3. a6. Okay, let's play bishop e2. I'm going to try this straightforward play. So, building the box. C4. I mean d5 and a5. We should add the pawn to b4 and the box will be complete. Boxing, inboxing, queenside. Knight to c5. Now it's an interesting moment. So I can basically take on c5. It's good for white. But it will lead to very slow maneuvering. Will be not so easy to break through after this exchange. Another option is just to go away with the knight for now, preparing b4. The question is where to go. To d2 or to c1. What is better? If I go to d2, there is knight e4. Slightly simplifying the things. If I play knight to c1, there is knight c5 to e4. And there will be a threat of knight to c3. Not so clear entirely. But I still prefer knight to c1. Let's try this move. After all, if knight c5 to e4, I have queen to e1 covering c3 prior to doing anything else. And this looks like a blunder, or... No, it's not a blunder, but after b4, feels like the knight is forced back to d7. Otherwise, I just capture on b6. Knight to e4 loses a pawn on b6, I can take it. But then knight c3, knight takes c2. Aha, that is the point. Interesting. Maybe I should just capture with the pawn to avoid it. If knight c3, I take on c7, knight takes d1, rook d1, extra minor piece. Yeah, let's take with the pawn. Alright. Extra material, very important pawn it was. Now c3 should be covered to prevent knight to c3. I guess queen to b3 serves this goal very well. Probably not the most accurate move. Probably queen to d3 was better. Just targeting the knight. And at the same time preventing knight to d7. Ah, there was a mistake. But alright, black blundered my idea. My idea was just to play f3, winning the piece. That's bad for black. This is just probably lost immediately. So the only move was, I guess, knight to d7, attacking b6 and preparing knight to f6 retreat. In which case, white is still much better because of the better pawn structure and the great progress which was already made on the queen side with pawns and pair of bishops and so forth. But still, it was a playable position. So I think you should consider playing knight c5 a bit earlier. Somewhere here, when I play a4, just right away, knight to c5. Or maybe after a5, immediately, knight to c5. Because after queen c7, c4, and castling, it's a bit a bit late. So now my knight goes away, and I'm going to play b4 next move. And coming back to b3 with the knight. And if your knight goes to e4, as you can see, you are in trouble. The only inaccuracy I made here, queen to b3 wasn't that great. So queen d3 was much stronger, because now there is no move knight to d7. The knight is hanging on e4. And to save the knight, because I want to play f3 still, you have to play h6, which gives me the time to come back with the knight to b3. It's just lost strategically. I put the knight on a5, the knight to c6, and goodbye. Okay, let's go further. Strategic disaster. Pedro, accept. Black pieces against Pedro. e4, e5. Bishop c4, bishop c5. Italian. And slow Italian with the d3. b4. All right, let's retreat. h6 preventing bishop g5. That's castle. Maybe I will play d7, d5. Is it a valid option here? I mean, just to play d5. d5, e5, knight e5, attacking c3, intended knight to f4, and so forth. Knight takes c5, knight e5, rook e5, knight c3 looks good for black. Yeah, let's try d5. That's why I didn't play d6. I wanted to try this idea this time. c3 is hanging. Queen to b3 is probably forced or something like that. So queen to b3, knight to f4. I was going to play this exactly. Yeah. So what about this? Attacking d3, and not only that. All right, knight takes e5. Isn't it dubious? I mean, I can take on e5. Queen g5 actually was also a great idea, to attack g2 and to attack the knight on e5 simultaneously. But I have a feeling that I can play just b5 now, trapping the bishop. That's why I captured on e5, to be honest. Knight to d3 should be also playable here. Well, actually, this position looks almost winning for black. What about b5? Is there any square for the bishop? I don't see the one. So let's do it. Just b5. That was my idea after knight f4. That's why I told you that attacking d3 and not only, also the bishop was my target. Typical stuff. Whenever you put the queen on b3, having the bishop on c4, you should be careful about this b7, b5 possibility. Sometimes it works even with the pawn on a4, because after a file becomes open, after a b5, there is bishop f2 check idea, taking the rook on a1. Typical stuff for this situation. Bishop to d5. All right, there was the square d5. Oh my goodness, I'm so blind. I'm so blind. All right, but now I have bishop f2, king f2, knight d3, king somewhere, takes c5, but then bishop takes a8. Oh, crap. So, black should be anyway better. But how? What is the right way to prove it? So candidate moves are knight takes d3 immediately. Knight takes d3 immediately should be good. Bishop to e6, pinning the bishop and attacking it also looks fine. Followed by what? By taking on d3 there. Oh no, I missed bishop d5. Such a stupid guy I am. Maybe I'm missing something simple. What about queen h4? And just d4. Right, let's take this way. Strange. I'm curious if I can take on f2 after bishop takes a8. So bishop takes f2. King goes to f1. Knight takes e5. King takes f2. Then queen h4 check. King goes to g1. Knight to g4. Yeah, this looks nice. And if knight f3, then queen f2 check. King h1, queen f1, knight g1, knight f2 checkmate. This is probably playable. So bishop a8, bishop f2, king f1, knight e5, king f2, queen h4. Forcing the king somewhere else, because king g1 is too risky. But if the king goes to the center, I will definitely have a crush and attack. By the way, in that line, I have very simple bishop e6 move instead of queen h4, just attacking the queen and the bishop on a8 simultaneously. That is just, I guess, good enough. Okay, now, white decided to go away with the rook. Bishop g4, knight goes to f3. Bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3. No, not very convincing, but this should be already quite good for me. Knight f2, rook f2, bishop f2, king f2, queen h4 is not entirely clear. c6 should be a good inclusion, I guess. Queen f6 instead of queen h4, rook on e5 is hanging. There is no rook on e5 in that line because I've already captured that on with the knight. Okay, so here I wanted to play this tempo move. Completing a development. Queen c2, and now say taking here. Taking here. That was basically the idea. Queen b6 and takes c6. With the extra exchange and winning position. Alright. Interesting stuff. So that is what I've calculated. At least I wanted to show you this line. So after... Okay, 95. Probably queen to g5 was a move, but I'm not sure. It was also not entirely clear. So like g3. Probably the only move. Now I take on e5. Then something like I did. Okay, if knight goes to e4, I just have knight f3. Now this should be winning for black, I think, somehow. Already the extra minor piece and this weakness of f3, no, should be just winning. So queen g5 was probably the move I missed, but bishop f7 may be an interesting idea. So I go away. Now, hard to say. If g3, I just take on e5 again. Again, should be winning. So yeah. Queen g5 was much stronger, but I didn't see bishop d5 move. That was the problem. So here, after bishop a8, I have bishop takes f2. If king goes to h1, I just take on e5, and I have extra pawn. Good enough. So king f1, knight takes e5. Again, right now I am having the extra material, extra pawn. And here, I think, if I don't find the decisive attack after queen h4, I have at least bishop e6 attacking the queen, then taking that bishop on a8. And again, simply extra pawn, there is nothing to discuss. But I wanted to try queen h4, in fact, because now, if king goes to g1, I think after knight g4, white doesn't have a satisfactory defense. I have several threats. The first and the main one is just to play queen f2, queen e1, checkmate. Immediate queen e1 doesn't work because of knight f1. That's why knight g4 first. If knight to f1, just queen f2. Takes f1, checkmate. If knight to f3, there's queen f2 here, queen f1, knight here, knight f2, checkmate. So, that was the idea. So I don't think that king g1 is possible here. I think that something like g3 can be interesting. In which case I can take here, bishop comes back to g2. This also looks just winning for black, to be honest, because white's pieces are not developed and far away. So something like bishop b7 should be decisive. Yeah, it's lost. Knight f3, I just take on f3. Because I control that square 2 times. No, it also looks just lost for white. So all this play was not very convincing to me. Starting with this knight e2. I think if you play b4, the natural follow-up is a4. At least at some point you have to go away with the bishop to b3 or something like that. Just to prevent this d5 with the tempo. Or here, after d5, you could have played this still. But in this particular case, I wanted to try d4 because b4 is kind of vulnerable. So if you take, you cannot play c4, and it's not a good idea in general. If you take on d4, I can probably consider even taking with the bishop, then taking with the queen, attacking the rook, and then knight takes b4 or queen takes b4, depending on what you do. If rook b1, of course, knight takes b4. But there you will have some compensation. So maybe it's better for me to take this pawn on d3. That's another weakness. So, don't know, but doesn't look very good for white. E d5, knight e5, queen b3, knight f4. Maybe here to try something else, but it's not so simple because d3 is under attack, b5 is a threat, so maybe queen c2, but then anyway I play b5, bishop here, I can take on d3. Looks great for black. Alright, anyway, thanks for the game. So what do we have here? Probably the time for one more game. Königsspringa is the next one. I actually said at the very beginning that today there will be 1 hour and a half session because of my trip tomorrow, early in the morning. So d4, cd4, Sicilian, knight c3. Let's try bishop e2 again. e6. What about g4? I know it's not a good idea, but just want to try it. h6. Let us continue. Bishop e3 or what? Or g5. g5. Let's play g5. Is that carries attack? No. Carries attack is played without the pawn on a6. When black plays knight f6, d6, knight f6, e6, then g4. Without the bishop on e2, without the pawn on a6. It's sort of carries attack. So similar ideas, but not exactly that opening. All right, now knight to b3 or knight to c6. I think knight to b3 should be fine. So g file is open. That's the basic idea behind this, playing g5 and taking with the bishop. So at some point I'm going to play rook to g1, exerting some pressure on g7. Okay, for now, what to do? I should complete a development. To play queen d2, yeah. Or queen d3 followed by queen g3, no, queen d2. So position of the bishop on e2 has advantages and disadvantages. So disadvantages are like the fact that f2 is not protected. So for example, I cannot castle right now, I think. Or maybe I can, so let's say castles, queen takes f2, bishop goes to e3, queen goes to g3 or g2, then rook g1, trapping the queen. Maybe I can castle. Maybe I can do that. Castles takes bishop e3. Queen to the g file, rook to g1. That looks playable. Let's try that. Okay. Queen c7. Preparing what? Knight to c4. Right? Right. But what if I just play f4, knight c4, takes c4, queen c4, e5? Isn't it like black is just struggling with not really developed pieces? Oh, bishop b5 was also a move against queen f2. So I was thank you. I was blind. I was trying to trap the queen, whereas there was just a chance to grab it immediately. My goodness. Yeah, just tired a bit, most likely. All right, let's go. It looks quite promising. Knight c4, just take and play e5. Managing to open files. It's very logical because I have advantage in development. The king is stuck on e8 and so on. Yeah. Tambourine Man says queen f2 bishop at b5. Yeah, everybody noticed that I've blundered bishop b5 idea. Stupid me, stupid me. But nice guys that you see that immediately. That's good. It's not about teaching me playing chess, I mean this show. It's about making you learn something new, and it's nice. If you see these ideas in a matter of seconds, this means, well, all my contribution to Chess24 actually produces some results. All right. I'm just curious where the knight goes. If knight e4, then queen d8, by the way, checkmates immediately. So my opponent noticed that. Unfortunately, I wanted to finish this session with the queen d8, bishop d8, rook d8, checkmate. But knight to d5, okay, prevents that. Knight takes d5 should be played, right? Yes. No, white is still better, of course. But there is no checkmate on d8, unfortunately. It was better, of course, to take on e7. Now I understand, because after bishop e7, if knight e7, there is still checkmate on d8, and if king e7, there is queen g5. So here, after knight e5, queen d5 was possible. But after e d5, I think I'm winning. Just takes here, say queen to g5, check. Very simple idea. King f8, queen d8, checkmate. If king somewhere else, g7 drops. There is also rook d4 idea, and so on. King e8, okay. So queen g7 now isn't a bad idea, for sure. But I think it makes sense to start with rook to d4. Clarifying the things with the queen and protecting h4 just in case. So black is punished for neglecting opening principles. Not developing pieces, but doing something aggressive. Usually backfires, you know. Especially when the position is open. Alright. Now the simplest plan is just to play h5, h6, h7, h8. I think I have the time to perform that. Let's do it. Checkmate threat, important not to miss. Not to blunder that. Of course, it would be nice to castle long, but the king already moved, so it's against the rules. Against the rules. At least against the latest version of that rules. Alright, now. What to do? Let's start with this move. And now I'm probably doing not the best things here, you know. Bishop e4. And queen is coming. Queen is coming. Queen is coming. Queen. New queen replaces the old one. And now what? Rook here? No. Just knight d4. Queen here, rook to e1. Yep, interesting game, but of course I expected knight to e4 or something. So, I mean, here that was so nice to finish the show with this checkmate, like knight e4, queen d8. Oh, not so often actually you can do something like that. Was very cool. But after knight e5, to be completely honest, bishop takes e7 with the accurate version of what happened in our game, because in this case knight e7 leads to checkmate. If king takes e7, then queen to g5. Same story, king goes here, but now I have some additional options, I think. Or at least I don't give black a chance to take with the queen. So queen d5, in my opinion, was slightly better than taking with a pawn. Because now in some lines you can exchange queens, which is important when you are under attack. I don't think how really this helps, but it should have been better. Of course, after ed5 it's lost. So I just take here, go here, then take on g7 at some point. And of course this h5, h6 was probably not the most convincing way to win the game. So probably something like rook to f1 to start with was much better, just to prevent bishop f5. Maybe even intending some sort of rook leaf, like, yeah, bringing the rook here, I don't know. Simply taking on d5 was probably also playable. So it's clear that this position is just lost for black already. All right. Main problem was that you started active operations prior to completing your development. Right? Right. All right. Thank you guys for being with me, for following my shows, for spending the time on my content. Hopefully you learn something new and improve. If you do, I'm happy because it is my primary goal to help you with this process. Wish you all great weekend, and sorry, one more thing. Koenig Springer says bishop e7, queen b4 loses the queen. But if I take on e7, you take on d2 first with check, and then take on e7. All right. Wish you all great weekend. Keep on learning, keep on playing chess, and see you next week. Bye-bye.